just got off stage where you talked about this vision for Uber to be, quote, the anti-Amazon. So including this new partnership with BP, this idea that Uber could deliver anything, not just food, in this vision for the future. Can you explain how you're going to do this? How do you take on Amazon, which is such a logistical powerhouse?
Well, I think that Amazon is an incredible company and no one is ever going to replace Amazon. But we can essentially use our technology, local logistics capabilities to power the local merchant or restaurant to deliver anything within an hour, which we think is a delightful experience. You think about on-demand. On-demand completely revolutionized transportation. It completely revolutionized e-commerce, and on-demand is going to revolutionize local commerce. We want to partner up with merchants, restaurants, essentially, to help them power their own local commerce solutions.
So you have Rides, you have Eats, you have Don't Eat now.
Yes, exactly.
Is this a super app vision shaping up?
Very much so. So what we're doing essentially is building the largest local commerce and transportation platform on earth. The users, riders, consumers get the ease of essentially being able to go and go anywhere, get anything, same ID, same payments, etc. We know the locations that you like to go or restaurants that you love. Earners essentially get to earn in many different ways. Do they want to drive a person? Do they want to deliver food? Do they want to shop, etc.? So more flexible earnings opportunities, and partners such as merchants, whether they're one of our restaurants or a Walmart or Sephora, get to reach our global audience through our marketplace or through our logistics tech to help them power that on-demand within an hour delivery.
So let's talk about those earners. Drivers are really feeling the pain at the pump, and Uber drivers especially. How much higher do you think gas prices will go, and for how long?
I'm hoping that with the early signal of there being some kind of a light at the end of tunnel as it relates to the situation, the terrible situation in Ukraine, we'll have some relief, or at least things won't get worse. I think the good news for us is that earnings for our earners are at significant highs. For example, in the US and Canada, our earners are earning an average. This is an average of $31 an hour. Those are pretty robust earnings. But the pain of the pump is hitting everybody, and especially our drivers.
And I know you've added this fuel surcharge, but drivers say, some of them, it's not enough. You have drivers protesting at your New York offices today. Will this surcharge go up with gas prices, and will it continue beyond May 11th if gas prices are still high?
Well, we were the first in the industry to move on the surcharge. And we moved on the surcharge because we thought it was the right thing to do, and it helped cover the majority of the increase in fuel prices, admittedly not all of the increase in fuel prices. In May, no one can predict where the world is. We're going to look at the situation, and if the situation doesn't change, we'll certainly consider continuing the fuel charge, or whether it's an increase or a decrease, who knows. We want to be there side by side with our earners and help them make a great flexible living.
Would you consider lowering your take rate or increasing theirs?
Generally, our take rate is lower now than it has been historically. And over the long term, we essentially want to earn a fair profit. And we're doing everything that we can to drive automation and efficiency of our own system so that we can put as much of the dollar that, let's say, a rider spends on an Uber to put it in our earners' pockets. The more money we make, the more money they make.
So you've got gas prices at highs, inflation at 40-year highs, a new variant that's potentially more contagious. How is this impacting supply and demand?
We're not seeing any kinds of impacts on supply and demand. We continue to hit records as it relates to mobility and delivery and our commerce business that we're talking about here. So it really isn't showing up in the business. Earners growth continues to be very significant. More earners are feeling safe. They're coming back to the platform. Everybody wants to get out of the house. And so we're not seeing any kind of a signal at this point that would indicate something is going the wrong way. But we have to be hyper vigilant. And I think for us, we're benefiting from this secular trend, on-demand transportation, on-demand delivery of anything. And as a result, I think we will be relatively resistant to whatever happens, in the broader economy.
You mentioned we're close to we're at post-pandemic highs for rides. When do we get to pre-pandemic highs?
It's going to happen sooner than you think.
This year still?
Definitely.
Okay. Now I want to talk about the war in Ukraine. I know you work to pull a number of employees out of Ukraine. You've been offering free rides, especially at the border. What is the status of your service and your employees in Ukraine right now?
So we are, our employees who wanted relocation have gone relocation. We're tracking them and their families. That comes first. Second, we are running our systems in the towns that the government wants us to run them. And we're actually now plugging in our Uber Direct, which is our logistics technology, to be able to power the UN to carry food around. And at the same time, what we're doing is we're raising money for Ukraine. We've raised over $2 million through kind of donate buttons. It's incredibly easy to use. And the donations have poured in a way that we never expected.
Now, you do still have a stake in your joint venture with Yandex. And I know you've had Uber execs resign from the board. You've said you're working to accelerate the divestment of that asset. But when you open the Uber app in Russia, you can still call a car. Why is that?
That is essentially a skin, so it's only branding of our technology. There's no Uber technology being used at all. It was part of the original transaction. Uber is a very big brand globally, including in Russia as well, but we don't directly touch that in any way, shape, or form.
So what's the progress on selling off this asset? You know, how far are you willing to go? Because who's going to buy a Russian ride-sharing service right now?
I think right now everything's on hold. So we have stated the intent to sell. We will sell as soon as reasonable. I think right now, the fact is, people are much more focused on humanitarian aid, resolving this terrible situation in Ukraine, and hopefully then moving forward with some semblance of normalcy. Then we'll look up and see what we can do. We already divested about $1 billion out of that business. So this is something that we had thought about earlier. It's not something all of a sudden that we thought about in this context. And we'll look to conclude the divestiture as soon as reasonable.
Uber shares are down. DoorDash shares are down. Instacart just lowered its valuation by 40%. How long do you expect this market downturn to last? And what are you bracing for?
I don't think you can predict the market. That's certainly not my job, right? My job is to run a business. And I think that we, as a company, have made the pivot to profitability. Remember, we promised EBITDA profitability last year. We hit it earlier than our promises. We've said we're going to be free cash flow profitable this year. The mainline Uber mobility business, the delivery business, Uber Eats, and the freight business, all of them are going to be profitable as it relates to EBITDA. So I think relative to our competition, we made the pivot to profitability sooner and at a scale. And I think the reopening for us is going to be a much bigger tailwind than, let's say, some of the other delivery players that we're competing against.
Big milestone in London. You signed a new agreement with TfL, 2.5-year extension, which is a big deal because they rejected your last two requests, I believe. Also committing to full electrification by 2025. How are you going to do that?
Well, we committed to full electrification quite early. And every single ride in London, essentially, we take some amount of that ride, put it into a pool to help drivers in London move from gasoline-powered cars to electric cars. So this has been, it's part of Mayor Sadiq Khan's vision. We loved that vision. So we have been working on electrifying our fleet, and we're going to get it done.
You just got New York City cabs on board. I don't think anybody thought that would ever happen. Who's next? Is it San Francisco?
We're certainly talking to many cab companies out there. This is actually a product that we built outside of the US. We've been at it for years. We have over 100,000 taxi cabs on our platform, benefiting from the demand that the Uber platform and the services and the earnings that Uber brings. And this is just an extension of that same technology that we're building. Super excited about New York. And it will be followed up, hopefully, with many new announcements in many new cities.
Labor Secretary Marty Walsh said last year that he thinks some gig workers could be or should be classified as employees. It's been reported that you've had conversations with him that have been productive. When's the last time you spoke with the Secretary of Labor or the Labor Department, and what progress have you made? What is his view? on gig workers?
It was, you'd have to ask him his particular view. My conversation with him was last year, and the secretary really listened. I think he really wants to learn about the benefits of gig work and some of the issues with gig work. We don't think this world of having to make a choice between flexibility of earnings, which is the number one reason why drivers, couriers engage on our platform. They do not want to be employees. We don't think there's this kind of false choice between flexibility and benefits and earnings. We can have both. And so the dialogue that we're having, you saw it in Prop 22 in California. It is, and it was an outsized winner with voters, all of our earners want it. I think that the Department of Labor is listening, and we're hoping we can get to this win-win, which is flexibility and benefits.
We're here with Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO of Uber. Just want to remind our Bloomberg television and radio audiences, I have to ask if you've seen Super Pumped, Showtime's new series, which documents issues with cab drivers and government in great detail. Have you seen it, and what's your rating?
I have seen it. It's not at the top of my streaming list, but I will consider it homework. And sometimes watching that stuff feels like work. I'll tell you, we've changed as a company. There's a ton of innovation in that company. Uber, redefined on-demand transportation, but the culture changes that we have driven hit home even more as I watch that show.
I saw you out there. I saw some pictures of you working at Papalates.
Yes, absolutely, and Chili's.
Working with some of the merchants on Uber Eats. What did you learn from that?
One of the things that I've learned,
help them with the challenges that they're facing and they say they have.
Absolutely, and I've delivered too. I've been a bicycle delivery person in San Francisco. The work is just, it's harder than you expect until you realize it. The person behind the counter has to juggle all kinds of things. There are orders coming in from Uber Eats and DoorDash, and then putting it into the system, making sure that you're caught up with the kitchen, dealing with, giving great service to people who walk up. There are less of them than I expected. There are many more delivery orders relative to walk-ups, but it's just impressive what these men and women are doing every single day. You got to be on your toes. You have to be smart. You're an entrepreneur, and kind of making it all happen in partnerships is something that I loved seeing. And our tech is good, but it can get a lot better.
Speaking of that, last time you were here, you said Uber will absolutely accept crypto someday.
Someday.
Any more details on that?
I think the last time I saw it was a month ago or so. So we will. I think crypto, like right now, I think we talked about it. It's demonstrated to be a real store of value, but it has not yet demonstrated its utility in terms of exchange of value, efficient exchange of value. Our average trip is a $15, $20 trip. So we need crypto to become more efficient. We're certainly looking at all choices. But if you ask me the same question a month from now, I think the answer is going to be the same.
So let's go to 5 years from now. Paint this vision for Uber 5 years out. How different does Uber look? Is it a super app? Is it truly the anti-Amazon? And how profitable is it?
Well, we absolutely plan to be a super app. And a super app not only for consumers, go anywhere, get anything, and anything is not just food. It's literally anything you want in your local city or town. But also for earners, we can be a super app. How do you want to earn? When do you want to earn? Where do you want to earn? We're going to be giving you more earnings opportunities than anyone else. Our Earner app is a super app. It's literally one app, and we can give you any and all opportunities. So I have to tell you, I'm just as excited about the earner-facing innovation and all the choice that we're going to give our earnings as I am being the super app that consumers also interact with.
And how many delivery players have survived by that point? How much consolidation will there be?
There has to be consolidation in the field. Like, not a single transportation or delivery player outside the US is profitable now. And this is a business that's been around for 10 plus years. So we are that company. We're profitable in the US, both in mobility and delivery. We're profitable internationally, both in mobility and delivery. We're going to hit free cash flow profits. We gave a target of $5 billion in earnings in 2024, but that's just the beginning. We plan to be growing top lines very quickly with incremental margins, and I think we are going to show separation from a lot of other players who haven't been able to demonstrate both top line and bottom line growth.